Good afternoon. It gives me immense pleasure in welcoming the guests for this afternoon, Mr. Atul Vir, class of 1975, and Dr. Murad Lala from the class of 1981. I also welcome all the other guests present here this afternoon. Mr. Atul Vir and Dr. Murad Lala are here to share with us their rich experience. Mr. Vir is a very successful entrepreneur, and Dr. Murad Lala, a surgeon and who has climbed the Mount Everest. I once again welcome Mr. Vir and Dr. Murad Lala.
Our first guest for this afternoon is Mr. Atul Vir. Atul Vir is a hands-on CEO, seasoned entrepreneur, inventor, and business ethics thought leader committed to excellence and innovation. Mr. Vir operates his global company, Equator Advanced Appliances, on the principles of strong ethics and superior customer service, values that set him apart from the laissez-faire conduct of the business world. Since founding Equator, Mr. Vir has grown the company into a leading appliance business with interests in the United States, India, China, Canada, and Europe. Mr. Vir is known for designing some of the world's most innovative household appliances, including Equator's combo washer-dryers that wash and dry in a single unit. Mr. Vir's work has led to 16 patents and a global reputation for innovation. Equator has been ranked in the Houston 100 list of fastest-growing companies and has been featured in leading media such as CBS News, HDTV, Oprah, Fortune magazine, Popular Mechanics, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. Mr. Vir has twice been named the Wells Fargo Bank Entrepreneur of the Year and was an Ernst & Young finalist. He is appointed to the Dean's Advisory Council of the Business School of the University of Houston and is a judge for the Houston Community College Goldman Sachs Business Plan Competition. As a speaker, Mr. Vir uses his personal story and expertise to motivate audiences around the world. He has delivered presentations to groups such as MBA students, industry execs, entrepreneurs, and plant managers. He is currently writing a book about his journey, tentatively titled, "And All I Wanted Was to Wear Clean Clothes." Mr. Vir showcases his deep appreciation for international art as the principal of Shangri-La Contemporary Arts Foundation and is the founder of the Connoisseurs Club. He enjoys spending time with his wife and 2 children, as well as cooking and tennis. Presenting Mr. Vir.
"70 years ago, a boy who went away to boarding school was invited back to his old campus. As he stood on the stage at Harrow in England, he told his audience, 'Never give in, never in nothing, great or small, large or petty. Never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense.' That man was Winston Churchill, and he delivered that speech just as World War II was starting out. I am no Winston Churchill, but I am honored to be back at my old school with my own never-give-in story. Headmistress Mrs. Chima, Board of Governors, distinguished guests, alumni board, members of the staff, and Lawrencians, thank you for inviting me to speak today. I would also like to welcome my father, Commodore Rajan Vir, who admitted me to Lawrence School, Lovedale, 45 years ago. This is his first time attending Founders as a parent. He could not attend while I was a student here, as he was busy attending duties to serve our country at that time. But this goes to show that sometimes you have to wait for a good thing, sometimes you have to wait even a whole lifetime. Please join me in welcoming him to Lovedale. That's me. It's hard to believe that just a few decades ago, I was sitting in this very hall as a student. Life has taken me to many places and many continents, but I still remember my time at Lawrence like it was yesterday. I recall learning the school song before my first founders in 1969 and seeing the school flag as I entered the large hall each morning. I have fond memories of playing different sports, learning carpentry, and playing music. But above all else, I remember the energy that lived in these halls. Walking through them this morning, I can tell our founder's spirit is still thriving. Sir Henry Lawrence's words, "Never give in," are everywhere, threaded through our school song, stitched onto our flag, inscribed on our crest, and ingrained in our hearts. Whether or not we realize it, the Lawrencian spirit is part of us all, students, staff, and alumni like myself. Never give in. These three words are the anchor that helps me weather every cross-current that comes my way. You may be thinking, if this guy was asked to speak to us, he must be pretty successful. When I introduce myself to my customers, I tell them that I developed the most advanced washing machines in the world. I am an inventor with 16 patents. I have created a brand that is the leader in its field. My company, headquartered in America, does business in 4 continents. Yes, we are a successful company. But that's not how Lawrencians measure success. For us, true success is being committed to our ethics and our values, even when our path is not easy. And let me tell you, the road to where I am now has had more obstacles and fallen branches than you can imagine. I am an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person who is trying to drive somewhere at top speed on an unmapped, one-lane mountain road at night with only one headlight, trying to avoid potholes and other obstacles that you don't see coming until the very last second. How do I survive those ups and downs so that I can stand before you here today? I'll begin my story after I graduated from Lawrence School. I decided to attend college in Pune. As India's 7th largest city, it was a different world from the secluded mountains of Lovedale. I'm sure your teachers have told you that college is a big change, and they are right. When a change comes your way, you can do one of 2 things. You can embrace it, or you can let fear keep you from seeing the new opportunities before you. I decided to make a fresh start in college. I immersed myself in new opportunities, such as the debating team. I became the secretary of the Commerce Association. I joined the International Students Club and played tennis for the college. Every change is an opportunity to redefine yourself. Seize it. After I completed my studies, I got a job offer from a London-based company to work in West Africa, in a French-speaking country called Ivory Coast. I've always been enchanted with Africa. It started when my prep school housemaster, Mr. Raghavan, read us King Solomon's Mines. It was an adventure about Alan Quatermain looking for treasure in an exotic land. These were the last words I heard every night before lights out, so I was thrilled with the new opportunity to work in Africa. I worked there for 7 years. I immersed myself in a completely different culture. I learned the business system and lived in 6 different countries and even taught myself French. I learned about international business. I met my wife, who was working in New York. She quit her job and moved to Africa. We had a great life and were planning our family. But fate had something else in mind. Suddenly, there was a military coup in Nigeria, and the new government devalued the currency by 50%. The writing was on the wall. My employer would soon be out of business, since it now had only half the money it previously had. I was at major crossroads. I could stay in Africa, or move to England, or return to India. I was ready for a new opportunity, so I decided to move to America. But once my family and I arrived on America's shores, the opportunities did not come easily. I struggled to find a job. I was rejected by employer after employer. I'll never forget one hiring manager who looked at my credentials and told me, "You don't know anything about American business." I could have accepted defeat, but the Lawrencian spirit was strong inside me. I decided that if no one else would hire me, I would simply start my own business. No matter how successful you are, you will encounter failure. Every failure brings a new opportunity. You just have to find it. What came next was a period of many firsts for me. It was my first time living in America. It was also my first time starting a business. I was also adjusting to being a parent for the first time. I had to be resourceful. America is a big place. It has 50 states and many large cities, each with a different culture and business climate. I had washed up on the shores of New York City, but I knew very little about the rest of the country. How would I know where to start my business? In those days, we didn't have smartphones. We didn't even have the internet. So I did my research the old-fashioned way. I called newspapers in all the major cities and asked them to send me their weekend editions. I spread the newspapers across my table, read the stories, and decided to move to Houston. It had an international port and an international airport, both of which I would need as I grew my global business. Plus, the weather was familiar. It was hot and humid, very similar to Chennai in summer. 45 days after moving to Houston, I was opening my doors for business. It was April Fool's Day, 1991. I didn't know it at the time, but running a business would be no joke. It would be the most serious commitment for the rest of my life. I called my company Equator Corporation. That morning, my first visitor walked into our office. He looked around at our nice silk carpet and brand new coffee maker. Then he looked at me and said, "Your office is beautiful, but what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be out getting business? To be successful, you must get out and market yourself." In those early days, I was selling commodities from Africa and exporting to the Middle East. I was having reasonable success in this business, but what I really wanted was to develop and sell a product. The question was, what would the product be? I spent months thinking about this, but the answer didn't come from an industry magazine or a business insider. It came from a conversation with my wife. My wife and I had a young child, and we were living in a small apartment. Every weekend, I would tell her, "We worked hard all week. Let's go to the beach and relax." But she always said she was too busy with housework and washing clothes. After weeks of skipping the beach, I finally asked my wife, "Why don't we get a combo washer dryer like we had in our apartment in London?" I'm sure you have seen traditional washing machines before. You load your clothes in the washer and then wait about an hour for the wash to be done. In India, most of the drying is done in the sun. But in the US, drying is done in a drying machine. I understand that dryers are getting popular in India now. In London, we had an all-in-one combo washer dryer that washed and heat-dried your clothes in the same machine without having to transfer clothes from one machine to another. But when we went to the big department stores looking for a combo, the salespeople said such a machine did not exist. I couldn't believe it. So I did a little bit more research. It turns out that these combos were not available in America. I knew the combo would help a lot of people, just like it would help my family. It was the product I had been searching for. I was invigorated. Nothing could deter me, not even my lack of money. I traveled to Europe to look for a manufacturer. This was no easy task, because America has very stringent quality and safety standards. But after months of searching, I finally found the manufacturer I had been looking for. The Italian company asked if I had the funds to bankroll the business. And despite my financial difficulties, I replied, "Yes, of course. Always appear confident and positive to others so that they have confidence in you." After I found my manufacturer, I started promoting the machine to retail stores. One of my first prospective customers told me he would carry the combo if I brought in the inventory and manage the service, parts, and warranty. This idea fired my interest, and I asked him what brand he wanted on the machine. He said, "It's a new product, so any name will do. How about Equator?" There will be days in your life when everything changes. And for me, this was one of those days. Following my first customer's advice, I went to get financing for my first batch of Equator appliances. That's where I hit the next roadblock. Every bank I visited asked for things like credit history, collateral, and a bunch of numbers I didn't have. But by then, I did have a stack of credit cards. I cashed them all out and wired the money to the factory overnight. My first shipment was in production, and I had put everything on the line. I was now committed. You must be committed to your goal. Don't look for an exit plan. It's too easy to quit. My first shipment of combos had arrived, but aside from that first customer, no one was buying them. I thought the combo was the best product on earth. I knew it would change people's lives by freeing up their time and using less energy. The machine had the highest quality standards, so where was the line of customers waiting to buy my amazing product? It turns out that people in America had never even seen these combos before. They were skeptical. Would the machines leak water? Who would do the service in case of a breakdown? What was this new unknown brand? Another fly-by-night operator? I knew if I didn't clear up all these doubts, people would not buy the machines. I decided to use that first office visitor's advice and get out into the world. This time I did it by launching a press campaign. I sent a press release to newspapers and media outlets around the country. I hoped and prayed someone would notice. The strategy worked. Within months, we were featured in major publications like Fortune, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Popular Mechanics, and Popular Science. We were even featured on major TV shows. Customers started calling our office. Then they started buying our machines. Equator slowly gained credibility, and soon we built up a strong national dealer base. Based on this strategy, I still believe to this day that the only reason for any publicity, including advertising, is to sell. Business is not about you, it's about the product. You have to put your ego aside. The press campaign was just what Equator needed. Over the next 10 years, business grew, and so did our range of products. We sold combos from Italy, dishwashers from Spain and Greece, refrigerators from Denmark and Germany, and food warmers from England. Before we knew it, we were known as the American company that specialized in European products. Business was rocking and rolling. We had 2,000 dealers around the country and 8 distribution centers. However, we discovered that there were challenges in coordinating these multiple locations. To solve the problem, I decided to create a global business headquarters in Houston, near the home where my family still lives today. We called the building Equator Plaza. It was 60,000 square feet. Its architecture reflected all the countries we did business with. It had Doric columns reminiscent of Greece, skylights inspired by the churches of Rome, a metallic silver color similar to Spain's Guggenheim Museum, and a roof with the same shape as the sacred door of the Buddha temple in Sanchi. Equator was flying high. We had enjoyed 10 years of growth and had a strong reputation. Our brand became so well known that customers would go to stores and ask for the Equator. We were also well known in Houston's community. We even created an international art gallery inside our Equator Plaza. But there was trouble on the horizon. Halfway across the world, more than 8,000 kilometers from Equator's headquarters, Europe was in turmoil. The European countries were coming together to form the European Union, and they decided to unite all their currencies. This caused an economic shakeup. Suddenly, our costs skyrocketed and in fact doubled. But American consumers didn't care about the economy in Europe. They wanted the same price they had been paying. At the same time, China entered the picture with low costs. This put even more pressure on European companies like our Italian manufacturer. Before we knew it, great companies with talented engineers were going out of business left and right. One of these companies was the supplier who had been making Equator machines since day one. They were bought out by one of the biggest appliance companies in the world. I can still remember the day I got the news. The company renamed our supplier Factory Number 23 and fired all the engineers. We didn't know it at the time, but they also changed their manufacturing processes. To save 30 cents per machine, about 25 rupees, they removed a surge protector from the main electronic module. This little surge protector proved to be a fatal flaw. Out of nowhere, the calls started rolling into Equator's customer service lines. It wasn't just a few. There were hundreds and thousands of customers complaining that their machines weren't working. They told us our machines were breaking down. They told us our machines were burning out, and some machines were even bursting into flames. Then it went from bad to worse. Customers began reporting us to the Better Business Bureau and to the Government Safety Board. In America, quality standards are taken very seriously. If you violate these strict regulations, it could bar you from doing business ever again. We informed the Italian manufacturer about the problem. To our surprise, they told us that they were not responsible for this. It was our problem. But even though the manufacturer refused to pay my customers' claims, my customers needed working machines. I vowed to stand by every one of them. And with more than 25,000 angry customers and thousands of frustrated dealers, this was no small feat. I shipped free machines and replacement parts to every person with a faulty appliance. I honored every warranty at great expense. I used every dime I had to make sure every customer was taken care of. Then, a few months later, we got another surprise. The Italian manufacturer told us they were planning to enter the American market with their own brand name. Their strategy was to target Equator's dealers and customers. Suddenly, our supplier became our competitor. You may have heard a similar story involving Steve Jobs and Apple. Years ago, Steve Jobs licensed Apple technology to Samsung to make its products. But Samsung turned around and knocked off Apple's technology. Samsung went from being Apple's supplier to being one of its biggest competitors. To this day, many people believe our supplier shipped us defective products to put us out of business. If there's ever a time when I needed our founder's words, it was now. We were a small company fighting against a $5 billion global corporation. It was a true David versus Goliath situation, and the events that unfolded were unbelievable. When I think about this period, another Winston Churchill quote comes to mind. If you're going through hell, keep going. So instead of buckling under the pressure, I decided to file a lawsuit. And to make my point known, I delivered the court papers personally at a trade show where we were both exhibiting our products. The Italian manufacturer was stunned. They immediately hired one of America's top lawyers to defend them. It was their big law firm against our independent lawyer who worked out of a small office. We were the underdog, but we weren't willing to give in. The turning point finally came when their lawyer visited Equator's warehouse. We showed him thousands of burnt-out machines caused by the missing surge protector. These machines filled the walls in our giant warehouse. Their lawyer was shocked. He told his client, "This is not how you do business." He advised the Italian company to settle our customers' claims. It was a landmark case with global implications, but it was a long, tough battle. You must fight for what you believe is right. You are responsible for finding the solution when things go wrong. Our customers had won but the recall nearly squashed Equator. We had received negative press, lost millions of dollars, and were left without a manufacturer we could trust. Business slowed, and the company lost almost everything. The house of cards crumbled before my eyes. Many of my employees quit, and most of my suppliers backed out. Looking back, I think many people were surprised that Equator did not go out of business. But I was not ready to give up on the company I had built from the ground up. As I rebuilt Equator, I was determined to do some things differently. Most importantly, I knew I needed to control our means of manufacturing. I had been burned before, and figuratively and literally, and would not risk this. I decided to make a fresh start in China. I spoke with many Chinese companies as I tried to find the best manufacturer for our combos. One stood out from the pack. This company was one of the largest in China, but it was committed to making the best products in exchange for my patented technology. I soon set up a joint venture with them. It moved quickly from there. We purchased land, put up the building, and started production. Equator was getting its feet back on stable ground, but there was still work to do. While we had battled through our recall, the market had changed drastically. More competitors had broken into the combo product line, including giant multinational Asian brands like Haier, LG, Samsung, as well as our old suppliers from Italy. We had been pioneers in this industry, but now we were losing market share. It was time for a comeback. Over the years, I had made many engineering advances. The combo technology had remained the same for quite some time, so I added some innovation to the mix. I decided to work hand in hand with my engineers to create a completely redesigned product. I oversaw this process diligently and made sure customer feedback was addressed in the new model. I visited the plant often, personally tested the machine, and after a few tweaks, our new product was ready to go. We called it the Super Combo. It was just the game changer Equator needed. Less than a year after its release, the Super Combo is making major waves. The product is already on sale in major American retail chains like Best Buy, Sears, Costco, and Sam's Club, which is the division of Walmart. The response has been overwhelmingly positive, and Equator is slowly but surely rebuilding our strong reputation. Because I had taken care of each customer during the recall, they were ready when I came back with the Super Combo. When I called my old dealers to tell them about my new product, one of them even told me, "I'm so glad you're back, Atul. I missed you." My customers had brought me back from the brink. They had welcomed me back with open arms. They had tested me during the recall and had remained true to them. They were now my true friends, and they remain my true friends now. In that moment, I came to this conclusion: you must serve your customers above all else. Never give in was the anchor that helped me weather this giant storm. However, these three words did more than just that. They also helped me reach one of my greatest moments of realization. Equator continues to rebuild. We make customers our top priority. This holds true even as we set our sights on the rest of the world. We have set up a customer service headquarters in Pune, and we will launch products in Africa, India, and Eastern Europe this year. Equator has come a long way, and we have endured our fair share of hardships. Some would even say more than our fair share. Even though we have survived the recall, our never-given story is not over. I still face challenges every day that test my ethics and my values. One of the biggest hurdles I face is relating to people from different cultures. As an international business, I cannot succeed without this skill, and I learned it on this very campus. On my first day at Lawrence, one of my classmates asked me, "What are you?" I asked him, "What do you mean?" He said, "I am Catholic. What are you?" This was my first encounter with differences such as religion and culture. Although we were different, he and I became good friends because we were able to overcome our differences and focus on our commonalities. This is one of the biggest gifts of Lovedale, a community where you meet people from diverse backgrounds and religions from around the country and even different countries. In business, I spend a lot of my time on relationship management. I get to know my customers and allow them to get to know me. In this way, I am able to draw connective points with people from Africa, Europe, America, and China. When I met our Chinese partner, I focused on our commonalities. I told them that I am from India and we are both people from the East. Our countries dominated 70% of global commerce just 300 years ago. We must now work together on a shared goal to gain acceptance of Asian products in the West. We talk about how Buddhism originated in India and spread to China and how we shared common values. We discuss Confucian philosophy, which is based on order and structure in society. This is very similar to the order and structure we have here in Lovedale, where we learn obedience to teachers, respect for our seniors, and adherence to our prefects' instructions. We perform our duties in the roles expected of us, whether we are juniors or seniors. You must find the commonalities with people who are different. This establishes a strong relationship. The next step in the process is building mutual trust. Business people have a reputation for being untrustworthy. This is the same in America and in India. That is why I go to great lengths to show people that I am worthy of their trust. This is how I do it. Just last month, I was demonstrating the Super Combo at a training meeting for a new group of dealers in America. Most of these dealers carried my competitors' products, so I knew I needed to build trust and confidence in my product. So instead of just talking to them about my great new machine, I started by telling them the story of why I founded Equator, about the challenge of my wife doing laundry in a small apartment. I knew this would help them to relate to me as a self-made person and a family man, not just a salesman trying to win my next order. I wanted to be authentic. Then I told them my history over the last 23 years with the combo, my credentials and my contributions to the industry. This built respect. Then I showed them my business card. There's only one number on it, mine. Everyone in my company works through the company switchboard, but not me. I have a direct number. This way I am accessible to anyone who wants to reach me for any reason. This is how I build accountability. At the end of the training, one person asked, "Can we get the exclusive rights for your product?" That's when I knew that I had succeeded. They will be my best dealers because they trust that my company will take care of their customers if things go wrong. You must form meaningful long-term relationships built on mutual trust. Another big part of my job as a CEO is to innovate. When I'm at parties or meetings, people often ask me how I do this. I give them my standard response. I innovate by thinking of new ideas first, but I will give you the real secret. And it goes back to October 2nd, 1969, right on this campus. It was a very special day in our country's history, the centenary of Mahatma Gandhiji's birthday. The whole country was celebrating. So were all the students at Lovedale. But as the country celebrated, I became seriously ill. You see, when I was in school, I suffered from chronic asthma. On that day, the entire school had gone to Ooty for a function, and while we were walking back, I got a severe attack. I was rushed to the school hospital, and under the care of Dr. Braganza, I was saved. Over the next few years, my condition continued. The doctor and the nurses tried a variety of treatments to help me recover. Inhalations, inhalers, and injections, pills, potions, powders, and patches, homeopathic, Ayurvedic, allopathic, and experimental. They tried their best to understand my situation and the causes. I know it was their job to treat all their students as their patients. However, they did more than just that. They also showed me something called empathy. Empathy is not sympathy. Empathy runs deeper than that. Empathy is the connection that you have with someone else in which you can understand their situation. But empathy is not just for doctors and hospitals. It is also an important part of the business world. Sometimes, as people develop new products, there is a disconnect between innovation and usefulness. Most product innovation is conducted by engineers for the simple reason that they are good engineers. They might not be thinking about whether their new idea actually is useful for the people buying the product. But this is my top priority. Over the last year, one of my main projects has been designing combos specifically for India. It is ironic that after receiving my education here, my story is now coming full circle with the launch of Equator's India products. When I decided to develop the combo for India, I talked to many friends here about my idea. They said, "You have missed the boat. There are so many brands here, so much competition. There are so many problems with electricity and water and so on." So I analyzed the situation and separated these challenges into those that we could control and those we could not. We cannot control our competitors or the market, but we can find solutions to many of the problems our customers face. People said that the electricity cut off, and when it came back on, the surge would burn the electronics. So we installed a surge protector in our machine and increased the surge capacity. People said there was too much voltage fluctuation in their areas. So we installed a voltage stabilizer in the machine. People said that the electricity cut off during the wash. So we created a rechargeable battery that can complete the cycle if the power goes out. People said there was too much dirt and mud in the water. So we gave the machine a cleanable water filter. Then people said that water would cut off during the wash cycle. Now, what will you do? And this is what we came up with. We designed a secondary pump that can draw water from another source. So when the water from the main tap stops, the machine will automatically draw water from the other source, whether it's a bucket or a river or a stream or a lake. Whether I'm developing products for India or any other country, my goal is the same: to always improve the quality of my customers' lives. I do this by getting into their minds and their thought process and trying to be aware of their needs. If business is to be treated like war, then a big business's weapon is money to buy the customer. My secret weapon is empathy, to understand the customer, to give them the product they need. Use empathy to fuel your innovation. Whether in business or life in general, innovation, trust, and empathy are all important. But the most significant lesson I can share is this: you must find the deeper meaning in everything you do. And it is not about how much money you should earn. Equator has survived many ups and downs. We have risen from the dead. We are crawling our way back to the top. And through it all, we have had the same goal: to create products that improve our customers' world, whether it's more trips to the beach or a hassle-free way of doing household chores. As you take the next step in your journey and find a deeper meaning that drives you, use that sense of purpose to navigate the challenges, twists, and turns that lie before you. I've shared my journey with you, but I would like to end my speech with two other stories, our founder's story and your story. Our founder, General Sir Henry Lawrence, was a bold, energetic, and skilled administrator who used hard work and sheer ability to rise through the ranks. He was a British soldier, but he was fluent in Hindi, Urdu, and Persian. He was able to gain the trust of people from all walks of life. Our founder was a kind-hearted person and treated his subordinates with respect. He disregarded money and personal luxury so much that he donated all his extra income to the building of the 4 Lawrence schools in Sanawar, Mount Abu, Gora Gully, now in Pakistan, and here in Lovedale. When our founder's superiors criticized him for favoring local Indian populations, he didn't back down. He believed in fair play and honesty, and he stood by his ethics in every facet of his life. Sir Henry Lawrence died during the 1857 Indian Mutiny, which is also called the First Indian War of Independence. These words are inscribed on his memorial at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. He was the noblest man that has lived and died for the good of India. Had he lived longer, he would have become the Governor General of India, and India and the world might be different today. Sir Henry Lawrence's journey teaches us to never give in. This is more than just not giving up. Never give in inspires us to battle through challenges. It motivates us to stand up for what is right. And it teaches us to be committed to our ethics as we change the world for the better. If you have studied at Lawrence School, you have Sir Henry Lawrence's spirit inside you. We are Lawrencians. Through the sweat of life's long labors, we are Lawrencians. Through the tears of joy we experience for a life honorably lived, we are Lawrencians. Never give in.